preparing to live stream this webinar on YouTube. So give us 1 second. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right place. All right, we are now live on YouTube as well, where I will mute so that we don't hear that. And we are good to go. All right, well, thank you for joining us. Welcome, happy 2023. You are in the right place, the Technology Source virtual roundtable, coming at you live every couple of weeks to bring new products, new services, new ideas, thought leadership from organizations who serve businesses all over the world, as well as right here in the United States. Today we have a returning guest, Mr. Scott Haley from AirSpring, which is a fully managed and connected cloud company. Hi, where are you calling in from today, Scott?
I'm actually calling from Dallas, Fort Worth. So we've got great weather today.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, it's just flooding here, but we're okay. We're staying warm and cozy inside, and I'm in Northern California, and actually on the mountains top, so we're not having the very scary flooding. And you know, to those of you who you're in our thoughts, and we hope you stay safe. And then also we have Joe. Do you want to introduce Joe for us, Scott?
Absolutely. This is Joe Brondon. Sonia, I apologize for bringing him on at the last minute as a guest, but he's a national channel director for AirSpring. So he actually manages 14 regional channel managers across the country. So he works directly with trusted advisors, customers directly. So I wanted him to come on and share a little bit during the presentation as well.
Okay, great. Well, we're happy to have you, Joe. Welcome. Where are you calling in from today?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. Second of all, I am from New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And if anybody is in touch with flooding, it would be me. But we are not through that with Hurricane Nicole. So again, those people in Northern California, I feel your pain. Been there, done that. Just stay safe. But pleasure to be on.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, I mean, and that gives us some fuel for the conversation today too, which we will get to, which is those disaster recovery needs and emergency needs for the topic of the day, which is the standard telephone lines, POTS lines. And so, you know, many of us have noticed that the POTS lines have not been turned down, even though the date was set that they would be turned down already. That date is passed, and that was in 2022. But why? Why are they still going, and why are people still using them? You know, those are some of the questions we're going to answer today. But most importantly, what does that mean from a business outcome for a customer who's out there today on the call? I know that we had some from some various industries, some in healthcare, some in senior home care, some that I saw in the hospitality industry. So, you know, you're all facing the same thing. What does this mean for you? So that's why we have AirSpring on today. They're going to talk about, you know, the status with these POTS lines decommissioning, and also who would choose to keep them and why, and what are some of the repercussions on either side of that. As well as hopefully one of the topics I really love is, you know, improving productivity and cost savings and those types of things. And so, you know, if you're going to make a change, why not move in the right direction, and, you know, save money and improve productivity and improve, you know, your disaster recovery, because changes, as we know, they're hard, they take time. So make sure that we're, you know, making those methodical changes. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. Why are there still POTS lines, and, you know, what are some ideas that you have, Scott, to address the topic today?
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to share my screens real quick here.
Great. And one word of housekeeping while Scott's getting his screen share going. We do have a drawing today. So for those of you who are used to our events, as you know, we usually have a fun drawing. So today's drawing is two $50 gift cards from AirSpring. So all you have to do is ask a question. There's a little chat box. You can ask a question in the chat box, or in the question and answer box, and I will be monitoring that. And then if we use your question, we'll put your name into this bowl right here. And if your name gets drawn at the end, you get those $50 gift cards. So simple, easy, and fun. And go ahead, Scott. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Sonia, as we've kind of talked about in the past, be sure and just feel free to stop me and interrupt me if you get some questions in and you want to take a little break. We won't want to just have me talking the whole time. So as you can see, really, the title of this is Critical Changes Are Coming for Your Phone Lines. And we're talking about the plain old telephone lines that we'll refer to as POTS lines. And so if you're a business owner, and that's who I'm going to be talking to today, in addition to some of the advisors that are on the call as well, is do you have a trusted advisor that can help you? So real quick, I'm not going to go in a lot of detail, but I want you to understand who AirSpring is a little bit. We think this is really important. We are a family-owned and operated company. We're not some nameless public company. We take no outside investment. These are the three brothers that started the company 21 years ago, and they operate the company on a daily basis. Avi is the CEO, Daniel is the president, CRO, and David is the executive VP of product management. So I just want to put a face to the name of the company. We do a lot of different services. We are not going to talk about all these services. What I want to focus on today is replacing POTS lines. That's going to be our focus. But I just wanted you to see we do offer a whole lot of things. So technology is really critical to run your business nowadays, but it's rapidly changing, faster than it's ever changed. And so again, I'm going to continue to make the point and ask the question, do you have a trusted advisor? And the reason why I make that point is because if you're a business owner, your core focus is running your business, and that's what your expertise is in your business. You don't need to try to become an expert in technology. Technology Source provides experts that can help you in your decision-making process. So do businesses still use POTS lines? Sonia mentioned that technically the FCC mandate was August the 2nd of 2022 when POTS lines are going to start being turned down. That hasn't completely happened yet. It is happening in small pockets, but there are literally millions of businesses out there that are still using POTS lines. Some for voice, some for fax. A lot of them are what we call specialty POTS lines. So those are things like for fire alarms or elevators or fire panels, because the various states' public utility commissions required that you use a POTS line, a copper analog line for those. That is changing because these copper POTS lines are going away. So it's estimated that there's right now 24 million specialty POTS lines still in use today with businesses, and that's not counting any that are being used for voice. So we already talked about this mandate right here. POTS lines were considered critical infrastructure. That's why they were protected for so long. But because the copper network is going away, that's what we're going to talk about as some ways to replace those. So what really happened on August 2nd is what they really did is they deregulated the market. They didn't mandate that all POTS lines be turned down on August the 2nd. It just means that the big phone companies have the right to start turning down phone lines. However, I will say this, the reason why they don't just turn down phone lines is because the publicity would be so bad. And so what their strategy is, basically, they are just continually, multiple times per year, increasing the price for POTS lines. And what they're trying to do is drive people on their own initiative away from POTS because it's just becoming too expensive. So I guess I kind of jumped ahead. That's kind of what we were just saying there. This is what I wanted to show you, kind of in the industry, what's happening out there with some POTS lines. So one technology company that's on LinkedIn, they did a survey about 18 months ago, actually, with their customers that were on POTS lines. And so what they did is they reported back that their customers, 22% were paying a little less than $50 per month for a POTS line. However, 56% were now paying between $50 and $100, $11, $100 to $150, and then another 11% more than $150 per month for a POTS line. Okay, the average company out there, the average small business, has at least 3 POTS lines, just to give you an idea. What we're seeing in the market, I can tell you, is most customers are paying between $80 and $130 per POTS line right now. In some rural areas, we've actually seen POTS lines as high as $1,000 per POTS line. It's just phenomenal. The other thing I want to note is this bottom one right here. AT&T, which has most POTS lines in use anywhere in the country, they are turning down or decommissioning their copper network by 50% by the year 2025. They've already made that a public announcement. So POTS are not only increasing in pricing, but they are going to be going away. They're just not available. So here's some key reasons why POTS lines are being phased out, and the pricing is rising. It's not just pushing away. There are actual reasons why POTS lines are expensive for the providers. So one is they use copper. If you know anything about thieves out there, they're stealing copper all over the place right now. That's because it's a limited supply and it's expensive. So what happens is when that copper phone line starts degrading, they're not going to go back out and repair that copper line or replace it. They don't have to anymore. That's part of the FCC mandate. So it's just really costly for them to try to support that, and legally they don't have to anymore. The other is quality of service, just what I mentioned. A lot of POTS lines, which are copper, are old. They're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old in the ground. They're now getting wet. They're getting damaged. And so their actual functionality is degrading. You're hearing a lot of crackling on the lines, that kind of thing. And then the last one, and I think this is actually just as important as anything, is the digital innovation is really making POTS lines obsolete. So POTS lines by themselves, while it's nice that their power comes across the copper itself, they're self-powered. That's always been a nice thing, and that's why they've been a critical infrastructure. The problem is there's no disaster recovery built into a POTS line, like there is with digital solutions. So in other words, if that POTS line gets cut or that copper just goes bad, that POTS line is dead. There's nowhere to redirect that traffic, whether it's data traffic or voice traffic. Digital, we can do that in a lot of different ways. So we're going to talk about some of that as well. Sorry, I hit something too soon there. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is those different alternatives. And again, I keep mentioning Trusted Advisor. That's what a Trusted Advisor can help you do, is look at what alternatives are truly out there and what's best for your business. So one of the things that a Trusted Advisor can do for you is they can help you create a telecom and technology inventory. Most businesses, whether they're small or large, don't have them. I had a customer with 1,200 locations, did not have an inventory of any of their POTS lines. They had 6,000 POTS lines. When we did an inventory of those POTS lines, 6% were inactive, but they were being billed. So some store manager had called in, canceled that POTS line, and the line was canceled, but it never stopped being billed. So that 6% equated to $14,400 a month in billing for non-existent POTS lines. So that just gives you a big example of what a telecom and technology inventory can do. So when a Trusted Advisor comes in and does that for you, they start letting you have an in-depth visibility into your business, right? Not just your POTS lines, but maybe your internet, what you need, what you don't need, those kind of things. It lets you see a bigger picture. That's something they can help you do, and they can take their time to do that so you don't have to take your time to do that. So we would tell a Trusted Advisor to tell their clients, replace all POTS lines, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts anymore. If you're a business that's still using POTS lines, you're just drastically overpaying for that POTS lines. You're also not getting the benefits of digital technology that I mentioned before. Already mentioned, what POTS lines are costing. So real quick, a Trusted Advisor, here's just some of the alternatives. These aren't all of them, but these are 4 core alternatives that a Trusted Advisor can show you. So one, we can do what's called SIP trunks. And really a SIP, all that means is that analog copper line, it's just a digital phone line. So don't get any more complicated than that. But it's a digital phone line, and we can do that with an analog or PRI handoff. So what that means is if you've got a phone system that they work on analog primarily, we can actually translate that digital signal into analog so that it'll speak to your phone system, okay? So we can actually replace that analog line with a digital line. The other is what's called UCaaS, and that's Unified Communications. A lot of ways people may have heard the term VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. So that's what a UCaaS can do. It replaces a phone system and all the analog lines, okay? Really good solution for most customers. The other is a lot of people, small and large businesses, are using Microsoft Teams nowadays or Microsoft Office 365. If they have what's called an E5 license, which is one of their higher licenses, you can actually use their Teams platform to place phone calls. But you need to be able to connect to it, and we can do that. We can connect to that Microsoft Teams platform. And then the last is the specialty POTS replacement product. And that's a specialized POTS replacement product that we can offer, and that's designed to replace alarm lines and elevator lines or alarm panels, those kind of things. Things that are critical infrastructure, that's what that product is really designed for. We can use it for voice as well, but it's actually better used for those, and then to use for voice either SIP or UCAS or Microsoft Teams Direct Routing. That would be our recommendation. There's a lot of benefits for that, and Joe can speak to that a little bit later on. So just so you know, all of these alternatives, they would help you reduce POTS, what you're paying for POTS right now, by anywhere from 30 to 70%, depending on what you're paying right now for a POTS line.
We do have some questions on
Let's
that
go ahead.
slide. Yeah,
Okay.
and it was interesting too to hear how, you know, from a disaster recovery standpoint, which is where my mind's always going from the healthcare world, how POTS lines are not necessarily what you'd want to have in place from a disaster recovery standpoint, because there's no replacement for them should the line go down. So that is kind of an eye opener for people who are focused on DR in the healthcare space. Speaking of healthcare, we have a customer on the call today, Carl W, as in whiskey. And the question is about PHI, protected health information. And Carl wants to know, are digital lines as secure as analog for PHI faxing?
So it depends on, I can't say that's just a yes. It's a yes and no question. And so what I mean by that is it depends what else is involved with that. And here's an example. So on our unified communications platform, we can actually hook up a fax to that and it'll work perfectly fine. However, because our voicemail is not encrypted on that UCAS system, that is not HIPAA compliant if you're using our UCAS system for fax. There are other fax alternatives we could put in which would get around that could be HIPAA compliant, if that answers the question.
Yeah, so it sounds like we'd have to look at each individual use case and see what it is being faxed, where that data is going, and those types of things. So great question, Carl. I added your name to the bowl. You're 1 out of 1 so far, so your chances are pretty good of winning that $50 gift card. Next question we have is from Cal H, as in hotel. Cal says, what is your timeline to convert from POTS lines for a company the size of 200 to 250 employees in 2 diverse office locations? And I guess, Cal, we would probably also have follow-up questions for you on that, but maybe just kind of a general response there, Scott.
Yeah, so the locations are not an issue. So it depends on obviously what we're replacing them with. But typically, if we're replacing it with SIP or with UCAS, either one, by the time that we actually have a solution engineer look at it, make sure the design is proper, make sure we can give the pricing, but once it's ordered, then typically between 30 and 45 days, it's going to be installed and active, unless there's some ancillary issues that come up, obviously. But what we would want to do, and the reason why we want a solution engineer involved, because we want to make sure there's no ancillary issues before we even place the order as much as we can. So an ancillary issue might be that you want to go to a unified communication system, but I've got a small broadband circuit. It's not a fit for unified communication. So we'd want to look at that. Okay, then let's solve that issue, right? That might be one of them. But I would say that assuming there's no ancillary issues, once the order is submitted, a project coordinator is assigned, you're looking at 30 to 45 days to bring it up.
Okay, thank you. And then here's another guest who has more of a comment than a question, but we'll add that because we appreciate your comments. This is a roundtable, so we appreciate your thoughts as well. Matt says, we just moved to VoIP a couple of months ago. It took a really long time. It wasn't necessarily with AirSpring, but just so that people are aware, this can take a long time. In some cases, it could take over a year. So interesting comment there, Matt. Any thoughts on that, Scott?
Well, it shouldn't. I mean, I'd have to know the specific situation. So,
Yeah.
I mean, unified communications and SIP just run over the internet. Okay. So, unless the provider is just incapable of providing service, it sounds like they may have an internet issue that caused a delay that had to be solved prior to actually implementing the voice, the UCAS or the SIP. So in most cases, if you're going to do a direct internet access circuit, we call it a DIA. That's just a fiber internet circuit. Typical timeline for that is somewhere between 70 to 100 days. It can come in as fast as 30 to 45, but realistically, 70 to 100 days. However, if construction has to be done, in other words, the phone company can't put in that internet circuit directly to your office, if there's construction, then you're going to push that out typically to 120 days, sometimes even 180 days. But those are things we would learn when we're investigating upgrading the internet circuit or putting a new internet circuit in.
Right. Yeah. And Matt did comment back and say, yeah, it was the bandwidth that was the delay.
Okay. Any other questions?
We have a lot more, but let's just keep rolling because I think some of these might show up in the presentation. But great questions, guys. Keep them coming.
Yeah, there it goes. So we've kind of talked a little bit about the telecom and technology inventory aspect as a customer. And so one of the things that's also valuable about that is the discovery that happens once you have that information. And that's why we start talking about, are there other things that could help your business be more productive and be more efficient, which we hope results into more profitability at the end of the day. That's the business outcome that most business owners are looking for. And so one thing in that inventory you might find is, just like that last question, that maybe there needs to be a primary connectivity that needs to be looked at. Maybe bandwidth is too low, or maybe it's not a good quality bandwidth. Maybe it's a cable coax circuit, which is not how I'd want to run my business as my primary connectivity. Cable coax is great for backup connectivity, not necessarily great for your primary for a lot of different reasons. The other might be SD-WAN. I can tell you right now, almost every one of our customers that orders a direct internet circuit from us also adds SD-WAN to it. It's very inefficient, but it just makes management and control incredible. We're not going to get into what that is right now, but I just kind of be aware of that. The other is network security. Everybody's aware of all kinds of security issues that are happening nowadays. I know, Sonia, that's your specialty, but that may be something that's discovered is, guys, you're really vulnerable. And what happens if, a security happens and shuts you down for a day or 2 days or a week? How does that impact your business? And then there's some mobility technologies as well that are out there. So to kind of sum up what we've been talking about this, I really want to make the point that a trusted advisor is more than just a salesperson. And this is really important. Their whole business is not just to sell you stuff. Their business is to make you a long-term client. And so your best interest is at their heart. Not even your best interest actually comes before us, the provider, AirSpring, if they bring us in. That's the advantage of a trusted advisor. They actually can be objective. They have a lot of providers they can choose from. They have a lot of technologies that they can select from, and they know the business. So I just would say that you want a trusted advisor to be involved. It's just really important. So I'm going to bring Joe in now that I've had him sitting there quiet this whole time. He's normally not this quiet anyway, but since Joe works directly with trusted advisors and their customers a lot on pre-sales calls, especially looking at things, I want him to kind of look at some of the top 4 items that we talked about that I think can replace POTS lines very effectively, both in a cost-effective manner, but also in a technology manner. So the first would be SIP trunks with analog or PRI handoff. Joe, can you briefly kind of tell us some about that?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, from a SIP trunking perspective, a lot of people don't know this. We're one of the largest SIP providers in the continental US. So we're very good at SIP. But if the customer, let's say they're migrating over to Microsoft Teams, Scott mentioned, our local SIP trunking would be a perfect fit associated with that application. But let's say the customers decided to move to a premise-based SIP-enabled PBX environment. The SIP trunking will absolutely take care of all their voice needs associated with that. And in doing so, with us, we deploy what's called an ADTRAN 908E, which allows us to provide T.38 faxing capability as well as the SIP trunking. So I know I'm throwing a lot of acronyms around, but T.38 is a standard analog fax protocol, a faxing protocol, which allows us to be able to do the application that they're looking for, even if they decide to keep fax lines in conjunction with a premise-based SIP-enabled PBX application. So one solution there where they completely move away from POTS and move towards a new technology application. The other thing is this, yeah, there you go, which by the way, we've got full porting capability, fax support. All our SIP trunking comes with E911 support. I mentioned the G.711 codec capabilities. Multi-site networking, obviously, you've got more than one location that decides to use AirSpring. You can do free inter-office calling. You can also mix and match our applications. One office may be using AirSpring SIP. The other one may be a little bit smaller, maybe using UCAS. And the third one may have decided that they're going to keep their POTS lines, and we can do, and I'll talk a little bit more about providing an analog handoff, which kind of gets rid of all those POTS lines, but yet still gives you analog voice capability. So one alternative is SIP. I mentioned some of the reasons why to use AirSpring. We're very good at SIP. That number is a little outdated. We're doing about 6 billion calls a month. We also have geo redundancy in our network infrastructure, which means that if one of our carrier grade central offices decides to take a hit, like flooding, like Sandy did back in New York, all our traffic gets rerouted to one of our other POPs throughout the United States, and the customer will be up and running.
And Joe,
it's actually, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm sorry to interrupt. That's a good example, though, of how a POTS line can't be used for disaster recovery. When
Sure.
Sandy happened, anybody that had all POTS lines, if those POTS lines went down, they're just down. Whereas with our geo-redundant network, we actually can reroute everything in various what's called point of presence or POTS around the country, and we have diverse infrastructure that gets around just one geolocation.
Right. The other thing is security. It's obviously completely TLS supported SRTP protocols, which basically means it's very, very secure, for lack of a better word. Obviously, we can do porting. Our pricing is very aggressive because we have so many calls on our network. We have what's called direct termination overflow, which will allow you to reroute your pilot numbers, your DID numbers to another IP address, to a cell phone, to other DIDs. We've got that full capability. The ability to scale and rapid activation is through our AirCare portal, which it talks about down there. It's an online portal. And then, of course, I mentioned the Teams environment where we've got direct trunk routing with Teams. So SIP, great solution. We're very good at it. If your company's looking to move away from POTS to a SIP environment, again, work with a trusted advisor, but one of the things we're very good at is SIP.
Absolutely.
John, yeah, Scott also mentioned UCAS, which is voice over IP. Our brand product is called AirPBX. There was a question about professional on-site. We do offer professional on-site installation,
Yes.
not only for.
From John P. as in Papa. We're putting your name in the hat, John. Thank you for those.
There you
questions.
go.
Yeah, I saw it come across on the chat. But again, we offer on a 3-year contract free phones, depending on which phones you're looking for. We offer them. Again, free air network monitoring service. Scott mentioned we do proactive monitoring. We actually proactively open about 95% of our tickets. The reason why we're not at 100 is some customers decided they did not want managed applications with AirSpring, just the data circuit. And quite frankly, right now, our repair center has an answer time of less than 48 seconds. So you will talk to a real person. But UCAS, another solution, which, by the way, full number portability from POTS to UCAS. So you don't have to change your numbering schemes. We talked about our platform is a meta switch.
Joe, talk about that again really quick. You mentioned that there's full number portability. How's the process for that, and how long does that take? And because that's going to be really important for a lot of clients that have an existing that's published. And
it is very important, but this kind of goes back to the segue of the trusted advisor. It makes sense for you to work with somebody to make sure you're doing an inventory of all the lines that you have, all the DID and POTS numbers that you have. So this way, when you decide to move your services either over to another carrier or change applications, you have all that information available, okay? The other thing that's important, Scott mentioned some of those exogenous factors that might hold up implementation. Make sure that your incumbent carrier and the information that you have with your incumbent carrier in terms of who the points of contact are at your, in your business are accurate, because carriers will come up and say, sorry, you're not authorized to do any number portability. You're not allowed to do that. So it's very important that you have your ducks in a row before you go to the implementation and porting to make sure that doesn't hang it up, because we have seen that where we've ported customers over. They didn't have a full inventory of the services that they had. Some numbers were left behind. And then we had to scramble to get those numbers brought over. But porting is very important. It's also critically important that you've got a good, documented, well-scrubbed list of numbers before you decide to do that. Okay?
Very good. Very good.
Sure. And the other thing is, gang, Scott mentioned we can do PRI analog. We can do those handoffs for you. Okay. It's not an issue of it's SIP or nothing. We can emulate PRI. We can emulate analog. So if a customer, let's say you've got 15 POTS lines that you're using for your voice services, we can migrate that over to a circuit, break that down into an analog signal, provide you full number portability, and you'll recognize some significant savings as a result of that. So the other thing Scott mentioned, all these applications we can do provide failover capabilities, where in POTS environment, if you're down, you're down. With these environments, we can build you, for lack of a better word, a better mousetrap, a more redundant network, which allows you that if your primary circuits are either taking hits or going down, you'll have that redundancy to do that. We're finding healthcare is doing that much more and more and more these days. Very, very critical for them.
Let's transition to Microsoft Teams for a second. So I've already mentioned that a lot of businesses out there, again, small and large, are using Office 365 now. And so because of that, if they go up to, now most businesses don't have an E5 license. They usually have a 2 or a 3. Those do not allow for calling plans. So if you do want to use Microsoft Teams as your communications platform, in other words, it's just taking the place of a phone system, you do have to have what's called an E5 license on Microsoft Office 365. We don't sell those, but Microsoft would be happy to sell it to you. There are some companies that are wanting to do that. Most customers are still using unified communications like our AirPBX or SIP trunks. Those, I think, are actually better solutions. But we are seeing some customers that want to use the Microsoft Teams platform for a phone system. We can actually connect you to that and provide you a calling plan for Microsoft Teams. Joe, anything you want to add to that? I don't want to go too deep on that.
I was just going to say why. You said that you recommend the UCAS solution over the Microsoft Teams. So what would be the reasoning?
Yeah, so if you're going to use Microsoft Teams for phone for voice, what's really happening is just like if you use AirPBX, our unified communication system, we have meta switches in data centers around the country that process that. So for lack of a better term, instead of, for a customer's understanding, instead of that phone system being in your office and that's what transfers calls and directs the routing of calls, incoming and outgoing, that kind of stuff, unified communications, we're just doing that quote unquote in the cloud. We've got equipment in data centers, and so we're doing all that routing for you. So all you have to have is the phone on your desk. You don't have to have the phone system in your office. So a lot of people misunderstand Microsoft Teams. If you want to use it for voice, it becomes the unified communications phone system. So the question is, does it perform that function very well? We get very mixed reviews from customers that are trying to use that as their sole voice solution. We get some customers we've had do like it. We've had more customers not like it for that purpose. Microsoft Teams can be good for collaboration, right? For like a web conference meeting like we're doing right now. That portion of it's very good. You don't have to have an E5 license for that. Okay, the E5 license is just if you're going to use it for voice. So that's what we would say. We actually like Teams as a collaboration tool, but we don't necessarily love it as a voice communications tool if you're trying to run a business. That's just, and that's purely based on, it's not anything against Microsoft Teams or Microsoft as a company. It's just, that's what we're getting feedback from actual customers that are out there.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Good enough? Okay. The last thing I want Joe to cover here, and then we can take a break and maybe ask some questions, if you'd like. So Joe, one of the things that you've already touched on a lot of this, but because we are a provider, and we have actual network out there, we've got a lot of different options on how we can transport or move or direct traffic around. So if you just briefly kind of hit on a couple of those.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I lost my headphones, so I apologize. Yeah. First of all, we are a provider of network infrastructure. So when we talk about managed connectivity, what we're talking about is getting a network infrastructure from AirSpring, which includes, it could be a broadband, it could be a fiber-based circuit, where we provide the connectivity and then we provide the voice services on top of that, okay? What that allows us to do is that allows us to provide to you what's called QoS, or quality of service, which means that you're going to get the highest level of voice quality service on that application, whatever voice application you're running with AirSpring, okay? What we do is we actually tag the voice traffic with what's called QoS, deliver it to your premise, which means we guarantee the voice quality end to end, okay? Over the top means you have an existing circuit with another provider, and you're going to get AirSpring services, voice services, to be able to layer on top of that network infrastructure. We will do that. We'll do it all day long, but please understand we cannot guarantee the quality of service on that circuit because it's not our circuit. It's not within our network fabric. But we do this all the time. It's not a problem. But again, it's not as secure, and it does not guarantee quality of service on top of that. One of the things that Scott mentioned was if a customer has a broadband circuit and they want to overlay, I don't know, let's say 25 UCAS seats on a broadband circuit, we would be very nervous about that application because of this QoS issue. Broadband circuits do not come with a service level guarantee, which means the speed is not guaranteed up or down, which means that as you're running voice traffic on there, because voice will use up a certain amount of bandwidth, probably about 100K of bandwidth per phone. And when you've got everybody simultaneously on the phone or a group of people on the phone, that circuit has variable speeds, may not be able to handle that voice traffic. So you may have calls that are dropped. You may have latency issues, jitter, those sort of things. So again, we'll do over the top all day long. But again, get with one of those trusted advisors to make sure the application that you're looking to deploy, the infrastructure that you have today will support it. okay? We also provide SD-WAN in multiple flavors. We can do it with a circuit or over the top. SD-WAN is one of those applications that will improve your voice applications on a circuit, okay? What SD-WAN does is it allows you to prioritize your traffic going over that network. So if you identify voice as priority 1, it's going to take the most of the majority of the bandwidth associated with that. The other thing that's nice about SD-WAN is we talk about redundancy, reliability. SD-WAN provides that, okay? But it's not a failover scenario. It's a redundant, hot network environment, okay? Which means you don't have bandwidth. Let's say you've got a DIA circuit, a fiber circuit, and a broadband circuit on failover. That broadband circuit will never be utilized until you fail over, right? With SD-WAN, it gives you the capability of using both circuits effectively, okay? And both of those circuits, that if the broadband fails, it automatically fails over to the fiber circuit and vice versa. You could be on a phone call that's utilizing the broadband circuit. It fails. It'll less than 1 millisecond fail over to the fiber circuit, and you will not drop that call. So what you see in SD-WAN is a complete game changer as it relates to redundancy. It allows you instantaneous redundancy, but it allows you to utilize both aspects. In this case, it could be multiple aspects of your network effectively and efficiently. It's a complete game changer in the marketplace. And the beauty with us is we've been doing SD-WAN for a long time. We've got great engineering support. We have a lot of flex pricing, but more importantly, get with that trusted partner, get with that, trusted advisor out there and have them walk you through, or if you want, have them engage hand in hand with AirSpring to walk you through why it might make sense for you to look at an SD-WAN solution, okay? We talked about transport layer security, secure real-time protocol. That goes with our SIP application. Like I mentioned, we're good at SIP. We've been doing it for years. In fact, we've been doing it for 22 years. We've been doing SIP before SIP was sexy, okay? So what I want you to understand is our network is completely encrypted and completely has HIPAA compliance, all those things that you're looking for from a IP-based SIP provider. AirSpring can deliver that solution to you.
Okay. Hey, Sonia, I just noticed what the time is, so we're going to speed up a little bit,
Okay.
except I want to take a break and if you want to ask any questions, happy to stop for a minute before we go on.
Yeah, and I, you keep mentioning the trusted advisor, and it's funny because when I was an IT director in the healthcare space, I wish I'd had a trusted advisor that's, similar to what we offer here at Technologies, exactly what we offer at Technology Source. We have over 250 trusted advisors within our network, including partners, and some of them have their own businesses, have been in business for 20 plus years. Some of them work directly with us. So no matter who you're working with, we all work together. And so it's a great way to get the latest and greatest information and really to prioritize your organization, not the salespeople in the organization. So that's a good point, and I'm glad we brought that up. The questions, we have just a few that have come in, but one of them was from an organization that was looking for like a checklist that they would need. And I've seen these types of checklists, they kind of are like, something that I'm guessing, that I actually not guessing, I know that AirSpring would provide. So it's not something that we need to show today, but like if you were going to go through the process of replacing POTS lines, there would be for you a checklist that the trusted advisors can help you with, and AirSpring probably has some too, that would talk about what lines you have, those types of things. And so did you want to talk about like a checklist or like a kind of like a step-by-step process that the clients might be able to access?
Yeah, there's not a static checklist because it's two factors. Obviously, it depends on the service type being talked about. It's also, are you combining different service types? So for example, almost every direct internet circuit we sell, customers order SD-WAN with it. So that changes the design a little bit and what needs to be checked. So it's really on an ICB basis, but that's why we want a trusted advisor, because a trusted advisor will engage with our channel managers. So we have 19 channel managers across the country who know all the service types that we use, the applications, they work with customers. And then if it becomes complex, we can actually draw in a solution engineer that actually get into the technical design if that's needed. So we can help with all of that. And then we would actually go through a checklist in the sense of, okay, this is what you're trying to achieve. Here's the technologies we recommend to achieve that. If you agree, okay, then we would go through and say, okay, this, and this all needs to be in place before we talk about signing a contract.
Great. Well, great. And, not just having just the client's interest in mind too, but also having a lot of insight and information about each provider versus just going online and trying to Google each individual provider yourself. So that's
Absolutely.
another, aspect of working with a trusted advisor is at Technology Source. We're going to have years and years of experience under our belt with organizations like AirSpring and all the others. So if you have a particular industry, if you have a particular need, if you're a type of client that needs lots of hand holding, we know exactly who to line you up with. So that's just another way to look at it. And including these types of checklists, we've got lots of those too to help you kind of, so we don't want you to bump your head on the same thing another client's already bumped their head on. So we're going to give you as much insight as we can to keep you kind of in a friction-free way to move forward with these types of changes.
Absolutely. Any other questions, or you want to move forward?
Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah, like you said, we just got about 10 more minutes left. So
okay. Well, I'm not going to go in super detail here, but I want you to see this. This is what's called a specialty lines POTS replacement product. It's a new service we're bringing on, and it's to handle those customers who have alarm lines, or they've got, maybe it's a building, office building, they have elevator lines that have to have an emergency phone in that elevator by law, those kind of things. So we can use this product for voice as well. It's just that the customer would actually be better served to use SIP or UCAS for their voice and use this for specific alarm line or alarm panels or elevator type applications. But please know, it can be used for voice as well. So what this does is, this actually, the PUCs are approving these. So it has to be approved by the PUC, Public Utilities Commission of a state, to be able to use it for an elevator line or an alarm line, because it's replacing what's called critical infrastructure, which we've mentioned before. So what we're doing is this. We're actually AT&T's largest wholesale Apex customer in the country. We do a huge amount of business with AT&T in all of their territories. They're in 22 states. This product can actually be used anywhere in the country. And so we're not hiding that this is AT&T. This is AT&T's product that we're reselling because we think it's the best product out there. So that's why. They already are completely trained on the product. It's active and being used. It's their installers, their technicians that go out and install it at the customer's office. It's a little more complex. It's more like actually installing a regular POTS line at a customer's presence than, for example, putting in a unified communications, which is just using the internet circuit and plugging in a phone to the internet circuit. That's a whole lot easier. These actually installations are a little more complex because of how they're being used. They are truly emulating a POTS line. They have backup. So it's going to run over the internet circuit of the customer, and then it's going to use a backup wireless 4G or 5G, depending on what's available, wireless mobility or cellular circuit as the backup should that internet circuit go down. All right, so AT&T Wireless is going to provide the wireless backup on it. It's a good product. The only thing I would say is the reason why I don't recommend it necessarily for voice, unless it's the right application. If it's a super small office, that might be the best solution. But because you're emulating an actual POTS line, there's no disaster recovery. There's only recovery in the sense of at that one location, it does have a backup wireless cellular that can carry the traffic. But if there was a fire in the building and everything's down, there's no redundancy, right? That's completely down. That's where we get into UCAS and SIP, where we can reroute traffic in true disasters. Can't reroute traffic with this type product. It emulates a POTS line, basically. So it's great. It's a great product. We're actually just implementing it ourselves as far as selling it to customers. We just started selling it. But again, it's not new in the sense that it's AT&T that's actually been selling it now for quite a while. It's their product. And because we're such a large wholesale customer of theirs, we're actually reselling the product. And when I say reselling, please understand, if there's an issue, it's not calling AT&T for support. It's not being billed by AT&T. We're the provider. We're just utilizing them in a wholesale fashion. But I just wanted you to see, because of how strong the AT&T network is and their experience, that's who's actually installing the product. I'm not going to go through some of this because of the sake of time. We've got about, looks like about 9 minutes left. This is the equipment that's installed, just so you see on that product. This is what the router that the internet circuit plugs into. This is the wireless backup. It's real simple. It's not a big deal. Works really well. I'm going to skip all this kind of stuff, Sonia, just for the sake of time, so we can kind of close up. I would just say that on this POTS replacement product, what you're getting is the high-touch support that we can give that a huge carrier like AT&T struggles with on smaller customers, but you're getting their network, which is the strongest network, I think, in the world. So it's kind of the best of both worlds when you're using AirSpring, but we're using AT&T network or AT&T service underneath. You truly are, as a customer, you're getting the best of both worlds. So I ran a little bit longer than I wanted. I want you to just see one quick example. This is a customer that replaced POTS lines. Again, not a big customer. They're a regional community bank. They had 4 locations. They've been in business for 25 years. They had premise-based phone systems at each location. They were using POTS lines for voice, fax, and alarm lines. The POTS were getting super expensive as well, and they wanted one provider that could handle everything. So we actually had a trusted advisor that actually went in, created an inventory to see everything that they had, and what we found is they had just a lower bandwidth internet circuit. They had no backup. And so they wanted us to bring in a primary and backup connectivity. And so we used actually a primary DIA circuit or direct internet circuit, which is fiber, and then we used 4G LTE wireless as the backup. That's what they wanted. We also put in SD-WAN at each location, and then we put a unified communications. We put our AirPBX at each location. So that replaced their POTS lines, replaced their phone systems, and then we had the specialty POTS line product for the alarm and their faxes, because banks still use physical faxes a lot. So we used it for that, so it's secure. It's encrypted. I've got another one, but again, for the sake of time, I'm just going to stop right there as far as a customer example. I do want you to see we've got a full solution engineering team. This is who our channel managers go to for technical support internally. Also, they do customer calls with trusted advisors whenever they're needed for opportunities. And then I just wanted you to see those trusted advisors from Technology Source, depending on where they're located, they have local AirSpring channel manager support to help them on the pre-sales project, to identify, do whatever needs to be done to make sure the right solution that AirSpring can support is provided. So I just wanted you to see that, and we'll stop right there, Sonia.
Yeah, no, and great support as a trusted advisor working with clients. I'm the CIO here at Technology Source. I have been, fortunate to see lots and lots of clients very happy. And myself, I have AirSpring as a user as well. So in a family business, so happy with our service from AirSpring. So not only am I the the president, I'm also a client kind of thing. I'm happy to say that, it's nice to be able to recommend fully AirSpring, and we're happy to, have that call with you and get you on with AirSpring so you can talk to them as well as other providers, just so you can see what's out there. That's really what we do. We're really, really glad to have AirSpring on. We have just a few more minutes. If you had any questions, I answered some of them while we were waiting here, but if there's, and I got your names in the bowl, so we'll be doing our drawing in just a few seconds. But thank you, Scott and Joe, for joining us again to kick off 2023. This was super enlightening. I learned a lot of new things, especially from the DR side. So that was really good. I always think of POTS lines replacements just to save money. And that's kind of what I always thought it was, just a way to save money, because I know they can just be so expensive and the prices are just going up. And, I was talking to a CIO the other day at an organization, and he was looking for ways to improve his business and increase his cybersecurity budget. And when I talked about POTS lines replacement, he was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that as a way to increase the budget for cybersecurity, because if we can pull money from this one bucket, we can put it into the other bucket. So there's another thought there too for those on this call. It's not just about, saving money and getting rid of these types of services. You can also take that money and put that into other services, since the budget might already be there for your organization. And you'd be surprised where we can kind of uncover these types of savings to find money for other services, or even for SD-WAN, like Scott was saying. You can get rid of some of the POTS lines, then that frees up some budget for SD-WAN. Then you have better internet and more secure and stable internet. So, great stuff, great conversations. Thanks for the customers who are on the call. Let's do our quick drawing. Number one, drum roll, please. Carl W, as in whiskey. Great question. Thank you for, I don't even know if you can see that. It's there, I swear.
There it is.
Okay. And the next one. Oh, two stuck together there. Okay, and this one is John. I can see because I have see-through. Okay, let's see. You can't see it. There we go. So this is for John P as in Papa. So great, you guys both got that $50 gift card. Thanks to those who asked such great questions. We really appreciate that. We will see you back for our next virtual roundtable, and reach out to me if you want a gift card. My name is Sonia Moline. My email address is Sonia, sonya.m@technologysource.com, or just reply to your advisor who brought you here today. We will make sure to get you those gift cards. So thank you so much. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Scott. Did you want to close us out with any final words?
No, just thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity just to share it. Listen, this was not meant to be just a big AirSpring commercial. And that's why we've talked about trusted advisors, because they truly are objective. We would love to have your business. We'll serve you and support you well, but we're not the only solution out there. So the biggest thing is just find the best solution for your business. That's our ultimate goal.
Sounds good. Joe?
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. It's great when we have the ability to talk directly with customers. Hopefully we gave you a little bit of insight, but you know what? Dig into it. Take some time. POTS replacement might be a great opportunity for you to completely relook at your network infrastructure and figure out, how do I just build myself a better, more redundant, more robust network? So appreciate the time. Thanks.
Great. All right. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Joe. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.